recording this is something I debated whether to do or not. And in all honesty, I can't remember if I've done something similar. I create a lot of content because so much comes to mind. So this may overlap something that exists already, or it might have been that I intended to do it previously and I didn't do it. I don't know. People, if they've seen more of my content, they may be aware, they may not. When I talk about certain issues, it's always sometimes with a heavy heart. Sometimes I don't want to involve specific people, but it's almost like they become test subjects. It's like if I can try my best to deviate around a specific situation and try to make a broader statement, but it gets a bit confusing and it makes it a bit harder, I think, to just put it into context. So in this instance, I'm going to have to be more specific, but I'm going to leave the name out. I will likely disable comments because, again, I think when some things go deeply personal or it's like I want to protect people. So what I want to start off by saying really is that it's a lot of people, they lack accountability and they just don't learn lessons. And it's frustrating for me because I spend an awful lot of time trying to uplift, inspire, and give direction to people. And it's like they take it on board when you say it, but it's really hard for some reason for them to implement it, at least sustainably. So some people, they get attached to me. Like they see how I see life, they see how I evolve, they see how I always improve, even if it looks like I'm down and out. The transition from that is quite incredible. So I could be poor, struggling, people have a negative opinion of that. But other people will be aware that I'm building towards something, and there's a method to the madness. I don't mind struggle when it's building a legacy or elevating me to a new level. I recognize that there's a method to this. And some people will pigeonhole me and think this is, that's the limit of you. That's not the limit at all. That's a place I put myself. But then when I climb out of it, when a transition happens, it shocks them because I ended up catapulting miles beyond them. So it's strange. So innately, some people who follow my journey know that I see perhaps more than the average person does in terms of direction and things best to do, best practices really in life. But the point really is like I give advice to people, but it's up to them to implement it and learn the lessons. Otherwise, what's the point? I'm not going to just hold someone's hand the whole way through their life. I've got my own life to live. I speak quite often about the fact that as I've got older, I've become more passive healing rather than hands-on because I've got my own life to elevate. I'm not going to hold, I refuse now because I've had it a lot of my life where people weigh me down and hold me back for their own needs, which is at the detriment of my growth. It's like that's not going to happen anymore. I'm always pushing forward. I will be my success story. It's up to people to be theirs, but I'm not always going to be available for them. So I was just going to start off just by saying my family member, but it's not. It's deeper than that. It's my nephew. He has out of all my nephews and close family members, he's one of the ones with I'd say the purest heart. Deep down, he's kind. And he will do things for people. But as he's getting a little bit older, he's making bad decisions and coming across more selfish, and he's making more selfish decisions. It's not really beneficial to him at all, but he's not listening so much. And I've got to the point where I'm no longer being their mentor in a way. It's like, you need to fly now. You're going to have to, if there's consequences to bad decisions, it's like, you're going to have to accept that, and then you're gonna have to learn on your own because it can't be through me. I always said that to him a long time ago. Like, you can't live in my shadows forever. It's really important you go your own journey because he does have so much potential, and it's like you've got to see it in themselves. So even over the past 6 months, I've been trying. I've said a few things and then I've left it be. So one of them was when he finds a job, because he's been back and forward everywhere, so like even at home. Like he'll stay with his mum, then he'll go 100 miles to stay with his dad for a period of time. He's even stayed with me for a period of time in the past. It's almost like 6 months to a year, and then he goes somewhere else. 6 months to a year, back and forward. It's like never settling, never making a final decision. It's like you're going to have to make a decision and stick with it, and then grow from where you are. This constant temporary thing is not going to build stability at all. You're not gaining. It's just you keep running away from a circumstance because maybe it seems boring, maybe it's frustrating, maybe it's just too hard. But unless you invest in where you are, it's always going to be the same merry-go-round. I've said this so many times. So about I think back in March, he relocated because there's not enough room where he's living with his mum. Now he's gone to stay with my brother, his dad. And it's a small room. I can see him getting fed up with it. He's going to feel lonely. It's like 45, 50 minutes away from me. So it's not even practical for me to go there anyway. And I've got my own life, you know? It's like, this isn't, people have to start establishing themselves. Like, I'm good on my own, though. That's the thing. I have a lot of independence. Some people will act like they're fine alone, but they can't handle it. Isolation drives them crazy. It makes it tough. So what's been happening is regularly returning back to our hometown and spending time with his mum. And I'm looking, thinking, you're going to go back again. I know it. Like, there's not even enough room there. It's like, it's just, again, it's establishing. Every time you step back, you've just lost 6 months. That's really the problem, isn't it? It's like, where is the growth? It's like, there's nothing happening. So with that in mind, like when he moved up with my brother, he got quite fortunate. So he recently got a forklift license, never had a forklift before. So it's not, some places might hire you, but then they're going to be a bit more apprehensive after they've hired you, probably not realizing. So I helped him create his CV resume. It looks a mirror of mine, but we haven't inflated anything. You know, I think there's just I think there's assumptions. So he got a job, and I think they assumed he had more experience because the resume looked like he had experience, but it was more warehousing rather than operating a forklift. But they gave him the benefit of the doubt because I had an interview there, and they really impressed with me. But I ended up ultimately not taking the job. And I was offered it, and they were going to elevate me to something a bit more advanced, and I was going to be on more money. But anyway, so I was talking about the resume thing, to be honest. But I said to him, when you get paid, because you get paid every 2 weeks, I said, when you get paid, just save the first pay. Save the first pay. Get £1,000 because you're nothing at the moment. Don't go crazy. Get £1,000 in your bank account. And then from there, if anything ever happens, you've got a safety net. Just start from there. That's the one lesson I've learned in all of my mistakes. And that's something I'm taking serious myself, you know. That you learn the hard way, believe me. I saw something recent, not long ago, and someone even said, like, I don't understand how people have nothing in their bank account. I'm like, I've always got nothing in my bank account. And it made sense, like, you shouldn't be having, like, they weren't trying to educate, they were just being a bit critical, but it was like, it made me straight away think, that is our own fault for the most part. Of course, we all have extenuating circumstances. You know, sometimes you're thrust into adult life before you're even ready for it, and you didn't have a chance. So there's reasons, but for the most of us, it's just spending habits, and it's impatience. So if you can just forego the first month or so of extravagant spending, unnecessary waste, literally, just even if you can't, obviously most people can't save all of it. You've got bills, you've got rent, you've got all sorts. But if you can save a substantial portion of that, just to get yourself to that safety net, then you're not at the mercy of the job, for instance. You have a level of freedom that's not so scary. Straight away, first pay packet, bought about £800 TV, spent all of his money. His first 2 wages went straight on the TV. He didn't even need a TV. He had a nice TV. He gave it to my brother. My brother had a nice TV. So they ended up with his spare TV because he wanted this faster paneled screen. It was just, I was like, my God, and it was like spring coming up summer. So it's like, why would you buy, like, if you have rational thought, not everybody, but a lot of people like to go out when the weather's nice, and then they hold themselves in when it's winter, when it's boring, you know? So it stands to reason, if you're going to buy a TV, surely it makes more sense to get it in the colder months when you're actually going to be hibernating, for instance. Why would you spend so much money on something that you can get in 6 months' time? That's not really an essential purchase. You may not use it as much as you think you're going to use it, and you didn't need it anyway because you had a viable alternative already, and literally that money would have been your safety net. Then gets paid again, wastes it on a load of other stuff, and it's like, my God, yeah, you're definitely not learning. I'm not going to keep telling someone, like, this is what I would do. You do you. If you think that's great. Bear in mind, they didn't have experience on the forklift. They were on a 3-month probation period with this job, and I'd already spoke to the person because they're quite open for some reason. Like, they tell him about, like, what they thought of me. It was all positive. But they were also telling me while I was talking to them, like, how they're a little bit concerned with his lack of experience. And I said to them, I said, yeah, but I said, the thing is, it's better he starts slow and builds his confidence, and then because it's better he doesn't make mistakes. And then if you see growth, then that's positive. And they were like, yeah, that is what we're looking for, yeah. So, but I warned him, they're very skeptical, like, don't mess up, because if you do anything, they're a bit concerned. They want you in a 3-month probation period. And then not long after, he had to have time off, 3 weeks off. He got a 3-week certificate from the doctors. And I was having a conversation with my mum about this, by the way, because she's more, oh no, they can't do anything because Doctor No. I said they can do what they want. I said you're just seeing it from the principal side. I said he's on a 3-month probation. They can release you for any reason. They don't have to give a reason. You're literally on a 3-month probation. He really doesn't have the experience, and now he's having a substantial amount of time off. In the UK employment law, you can actually be removed from a job in the first 2 years without a reason. Once a company give a reason, then you can go to an employment tribunal and say unfair dismissal. If it's like, for instance, if they dismiss you because you're always late but you're never late, that's unfair dismissal. If they just release you but they don't give you a reason, there's nothing for you to rebut. You can't do anything. They're within their right to release you for no reason at all in the first 2 years. There's just a lot of employers don't know that, and most employees haven't got a clue. That's the employment law. So I was making the point that it really doesn't matter if he's got a doctor note or not at this point, because he's already. They could just say he doesn't have the experience. They can just say that, and it'd be fine. That'd be a reason to get rid of. So again, I'm talking to my mum. I'm not talking to him about any of this, by the way. I'm hearing it from my mum, and I don't really like gossiping, but I'm just talking to her in general about like what I would do in that situation, what he really should be doing. But I'm not saying anything because it's none of my business anymore. Like you got to learn, you know. I've given enough education. And this is the actions I take in my life, and everyone's aware what I'm like. You know, if there's a situation, I just deal with it immediately. I've been trying to get like physiotherapy for ages, and I'm always punctual with it. You know, if I need a fit note, for instance, I'm punctual with it. I had to have an X-ray for just in case I had arthritis and things. You know, I had to have an X-ray. I booked all that. As soon as I have to take action, I don't piss about. I deal with things immediately. Like if I get a bill, for instance, and I can't afford to pay it, and it's like this is going to weigh on me. I've learnt my lessons. You just deal with it. Just talk to them. Talk to them and explain your circumstance. You might be able to defer a payment. You might be able to come up with a payment plan that eases it for temporarily. Maybe they just come up with a plan for 3 to 6 months, and then we review it in that period to see if your circumstances change. For instance, my water bill is far cheaper than it should be, you know, because I'm on a low income at this moment. They've put me on a reduced, cheaper tariff, like an incredibly cheap tariff that most people wouldn't even know. But by having a conversation, I found out that exists. My gas and electric, electric company, they offer an incredible service. It is free. But a lot of people wouldn't even know about it. Literally on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, between 12 and 12 like lunchtime till 4 p.m. is half price. And I was talking to the guy on the phone. He was like, yeah, just do everything you want in that period. So like, because I said that might be ideal for like the washing machine, dryer. He goes, exactly, that's what he does. And I'm like, well, okay, that's good. You know, it's cost saving places, you know. But again, this is because I'm forward action. I talked to my council tax. I think in the US is probably similar to property tax. I was talking to them about like, because there's a debt there. It's not like major amounts. It's just a debt. It's like something I've got to sort out. And I take action. And then they said to me, well, because it used to be you pay over 10 months, which means your monthly payments are quite high. And they said, we've got a new way of doing it now where we're doing it over 12 months. So there's no pauses. I said, that'd be ideal in general, like, because then it's just continuous. It's like when you have pauses, you get lost with it, you know, and then the payment's cheaper each month. Yeah, spread it out over the 12 months. That's perfectly fine. But again, that's because I have these conversations with people. I don't shy away and think, oh, I'm not dealing with this. I just get on with it. It's not hard to talk to people. It's just not as scary as you maybe think. So, for instance, he took 3 weeks off. He went to see the doctor because he vapes and shit, you know. It's like I've tried to educate him on all these things. He smokes and vapes, and he's smaller than me, so he's obviously got... I don't know if that affects things more, but I think it personally does. I think you're more susceptible. You've got less blood in. If you think about it, if he was really tall, really strong, you probably got more blood, and you can probably... anything you put in your body is probably getting, you know, minimized by the bloodstream, surely. So surely someone smaller with less blood in the oxygen. And I don't know for sure with that. I'm not medical. But even I inherently know. Like, again, this is accountability. I have to compare people to myself and understand. It's just stupid to me. All my brothers and sisters have taken some. They've all like drank alcohol an awful lot. All of them. They've all smoked cigarettes. All of them. And they've all dabbled in drugs from one extreme to the other. Something incredible. He's had his fair share of crazy shit. Like, and this is just abuse of the body. And I've said it, I don't say keep, I've said it to him. You are abusing your mind and body. And if you've got no respect for yourself, then your body's not going to respect you, and it's going to just reject you. You know, your body is your vessel to carry you through life. How you treat it's up to you. You know, I'm not perfect. I like my sodas, but I don't consider sodas to the extreme of tobacco. Anything that's going to collapse my lung. It's not going to destroy my mind with drugs and things, or impair my judgment with alcohol and things. So yeah, okay, we all have our vices to an extent, but I can stem mine. If I can't have it, I'll separate and make it longer periods without having anything. So anyway, I'm trying to explain it to that level. Doesn't really learn the lesson, sees other family members have issues with those things, and you're at a younger age where you can make better decisions. And I've never understood the fascination with all that shit anyway, that toxic crap in your body, and then the cost of it all. It's like, how is that affordable? So anyway, he's off for 3 weeks because he was already had a problem in the past, like maybe a month or so before that, where he's got a potential collapsed lung. And now he's gone to see the doctor. It could be the same thing again. So yeah, because he was off for quite a while last year, about 5 months, I think. I can't remember now because of a collapsed lung. Like, he had a huge problem with it. And then he's healing. And now he's got another problem, and the doctor said off for 3 weeks. But he had the doctors at his hometown. Since then, he's moved. So he was a bit naive to say to the doctor, "Oh, I've moved to my dad's now." Well, that gives the doctor a right to remove him from his records then, because you're no longer a patient because you don't live in the area. That may have happened, that may not. But he was supposed to book an appointment. You've got 3 weeks off work now. You've got 3 week window. It's like, you better get on with it. Like, because what are you going to do at the end of the 3 weeks if you don't deal with it? Your job isn't going to keep holding your position because you can't be asked to deal with it. Instead, like, because I was on my PlayStation and I could see when he was on, he was always playing games and stuff. And I'm thinking, you're crazy. You got a decent paying job in your area. It's quite rural, so there's not that many jobs. So he's got a really good paying job for where he is. So he's got a bit of stability there. And all you've got to do is turn up. It was 4 on, 4 off. So it's like, yeah, the long shifts, but you've got 4 days. Now, like, for instance, so if you fast forward, they've released him. They sacked him. I said he would get sacked. He didn't do anything. He just kept delaying it. He literally went back to work after the 3 weeks, even though he wasn't ready to go back, and he hadn't even had tests. He took something, I don't know what it was, and then they said, well, that would impair your functionality and you're using a forklift, so you're going to have to go home. So I don't know what happened after that, but all I know is they've sacked him now. And I just thought, you're so stupid. There's not that many jobs in that area. All you had to do, it's quite logical, wasn't it? It's just go and book an appointment with the doc, like get referral to the hospital, wherever you've got to go to get these tests done to see what the issue is. Because you shouldn't even be operating a forklift anyway. And I think that shows the level of naivety and inexperience. Because, like, why are you using dangerous machines if you're not 100% sure if you can? So there's all these issues there. So recently I was on the phone to my mum. My brother's there because they all keep going back for some reason. I don't really know why. But anyway, and he said to my mum, because I could hear him, well, get Stephen to talk to him because he always listens to him. And I said, I'm not saying anything though. It's none of my business. I'm done. Because it reaches a point where, people think it's selfish, and I get it. But it reaches a point where you can't be accountable for someone's life forever. It's like, eventually they can't, because it's like the people live their life with this get out of jail free card. It's like they think in their head, I'll be reckless, I'll do this, and that person will come up with a solution. They'll figure it out. They know what to do. Well, I knew what to do the whole way through, and it weren't really difficult, was it? Is it really that hard? Why not have healthy gains? Why keep destroying your body? Why keep causing so much stress on yourself? Remove the toxic trends, stop the drug shit, stop the vaping and cigarettes. Because, not being funny, he's going to a rave later in the year, even though he hasn't had this diagnosis sorted out. And you know what goes on at those places. So it's like, you just got no chance. Got no chance. Like, I've had family members who have suffered with, I don't know what it is now. You need an oxygen tank and things. Some have been like that because they just abuse of like cigarettes their whole life. And other family members I can see are going similar path, and it's like, you can't see the pattern, and you're young. Like, everybody thinks they're invincible. That's where the problem is. There's this absolute naivety to life, and I don't want to see someone's downfall, but they have to learn the lessons themselves. Otherwise, you're just holding their hand the whole way through life, and it doesn't make sense. I've given you the tools, the advice. It's not complicated, is it? So much could be different in that situation. If they weren't destroying themselves on a regular basis, they wouldn't have the health concern. So they'd be more than able just to function every day without an issue. If they, even on the back of that, if you've just gone to the doctors and at least got an actual prognosis by getting tests done, you would know where you stand, whether you can function in this job, whether you can't, whether you really just needed a very minimal amount of days before you return. I even said before he tried to return, I think I said it to his dad at the time when he was nearby, so they would have known. Don't let him go. Don't go back. When you have time off work, even though 3 weeks is a long time, never go back until you're ready. Because every time you're off, it's a new incident. So if you was off for 3 weeks, you go, oh, I've really got to go back. There's nothing I can do about it. I've got to go back. You go back, and then you last half a day, and then you're off again. Now you're off twice. That don't look good. You should have just took an extra 2 days to yourself, and it might not look great, but it's still only one incident. And if you've got a doctor note, it sort of helps validate that. But it's a continual incident. And I think that's where it's happened to him, to be totally honest. I think the 3 weeks was a push. I think he's then gone back, got sent home. That was the second time. And then something's happened and he's messed about again, and now I've had to go, we can't have this anymore. Gone. So now you've gone from having decent pay where you can buy what you want to now you're literally as poor as can be. And you didn't save it prepared in the first place, like I said, because you wouldn't have the crisis on your hands if you'd just done that. And like I say, just talk to the doctors. Talk to the doctors and get your appointments booked. Didn't bother. The whole 3 weeks didn't bother. My brother had 2 visits to the doctors. One time, apparently, my nephew didn't take his documents with him, to prove who he is and his address and things, which I thought was a bit skeptical. And then the next time, he didn't get up out of bed. So I thought, you just don't take life serious, man. You're responsible for your downfall. And that's the point. Like, you can look. People have a habit of looking around and they blame everyone else for their struggles. It's all self-inflicted. Anyone that sees my problems, it's self-inflicted for myself. But there's a method to the madness. I'm building things that are way bigger than my immediate needs. I can cope fine through that. But like I said, the transition's usually quite big. So, like, you can see me poor and struggling because I've took time out from regular life, I guess, or regular societal expectations, whatever you want to call it, norms. And then I go back to a traditional job after I took time out to invest in myself. All of a sudden, I've got a huge backlog of YouTube videos, content online. I've got books to my name. I've established something remarkable, really, a legacy. And then I can go back into traditional jobs, and I'm quite good at finding the good paying ones, the ones that are respectful. For instance, I've had a period of maybe a year and a half out of work. I had a bad back anyway, and I've been working on other things. It's like, but when you say out of work, it's like that makes you sound like you've been lazy. I haven't been lazy. I've done videos every day, multiple times a day. I've done my books. I've done audio books. I do the podcast. I've been creating things. So it's media, it's creative, it's things I've been working on. Other people in that situation do nothing during that time, so they've got nothing to show for it. They haven't been building anything. So when I go back into something, it's going to be, I've already got a great grounding on the background too. That could be a supplementary income until it becomes sustainable income. So, for instance, I've got in a week's time, I've done a video recently. In a week's time, I've got a test on a forklift with a company, and the pay is about £34,000 a year. Now, most jobs in the area are around about 28, maybe 27. They range, they fluctuate. This one's 34. So if I get that job, I've come back high, like the high end of logistics and warehousing. I won't be struggling, and I've got this legacy behind me. But again, this was all calculated. These are the decisions I make. And when people think I'm reckless and crazy, it's like, yeah, but I'll show you. I'm not here to show you anything. I know what I'm doing, and it's controlled. But other people, they're just reckless. So my nephew, for instance, is doing the job, but in his head, he probably thinks, oh, I'm doing better than him. Look at him. He's just doing nothing. No, I'm just plugging away doing my own thing. Don't worry about me. Then they lose their job and they got nothing. And then I go into a different, let's say I end up starting this job. All of a sudden, I'm doing well for myself. I'm making more money than he was making at his job. Meanwhile, I've got all these videos I've done. I've got the books and everything. It's now who's doing well. It's not a competition, but it's about accountability, though. It's like if don't sit around just doing nothing with your life, then you've got nothing to show for it. So, like, for instance, he plays video games a lot, and I've been saying him for so long. Like, even I create video gaming content. And it's only a little side hobby. But if you're gonna play games a lot, why not try to make something of it? I know there's a lot of competition in the field, but what's there to lose? Just create some video game content, make a YouTube channel. It doesn't hurt you. You're playing the game anyway. That's what I said anyway. I would do things like that if I was in your position. At least then you're building a catalogue or something. Effectively, you're playing games and it's not going to waste. If you just play games and there's nothing to show for it, and that's all you're doing with your time, then what you're building? Because really, you shouldn't, I go through periods where I'll play it heavily and then I'll drop off and I'll start focusing on other areas, other entertainment. Like I'll start reading my books more because I take periods away from not reading, and then I like reading. Then I like watching more movies. I get more creative. So I start wanting to do my book, write my own books and get on with stuff. I go through cycles just like most people. But if you just always choose the distraction, you're avoiding the inevitable. Everything catches up with us eventually. So, for instance, if you're not going to take care of your health, what do you think is going to happen inevitably? Your health is going to decline, isn't it? It's not going to carry you to what you want to do. So you're going to find this incredible deficiencies in your life to the point where it's going to affect your finances. It's going to affect relationships. It's going to affect your mobility. It's going to affect your freedom, all because you didn't address it. Now, if my nephew, for instance, just went to the doctor, they can actually classify exactly what it is. Maybe they can put him on a treatment plan. Maybe they can change lifestyle habits. But again, there's no point people telling you things and not implementing it. So if a doctor was to say you need to absolutely cut out vaping, smoking, anything that's harmful, because your literal body is like fighting for its life, but you might not realize that, but that's what's going on the inside. And that's your choice, isn't it? So if at that point you continue doing things, it's like you only have yourself to blame if something bad happens. And that's not me trying to be spiteful. It's just reality. People have this real bizarre attitude to life where they just seem to think, like I said, that they think they're invincible. They don't think there's a consequence, especially when they're younger. But you see it all the time. It's like age doesn't matter. Our health can diminish at any point in life. And it's holding ourselves accountable. And the decisions we make. So like I say, my nephew had a chance for a fresh start. He literally got a good opportunity. You can make a stable base from that and then start rebuilding your life. Because like, for instance, where he lives, one minute he's like appreciated for being there. The next minute they want him out, like his mum. So she pulls him in and out like a yo-yo, and it's quite toxic. And I'm thinking, that's crazy. So one minute he has a great relationship, next minute he's a burden. So he can stay for a period, then he can't stay, and then when he goes, his mum starts putting him back in. It's quite toxic, isn't it? Well, I think it is. And then there's another side to all that, of course, where people prioritize others. So, for instance, my mum let him stay with her for a good while. I think it's about 6-7 months or so. It might have even been longer. So he was renting a place for a year with his mum's partner. But because he needed the place, so they rented together. But he was mainly there on his own. He paid the majority of the bills. So he was working a lot at that period, and all his money was going on the bills of that. So he was struggling with it all. So it was weighing him down. Then he goes with his mum for temporarily. She can't keep him there. And my mum let him stay with her on the understanding that he would help pay towards things, because that's only right, especially someone that games a lot. He's using a lot of electric and all sorts of things. And it wasn't a large amounts of money, and he agreed to pay it. And then he never made the payments, or he made very little and then nothing for months and months and months. And then when he moved, obviously the expectation is he'll repay her some because he owes her a lot of money. But she said he don't really need all of it back, but he should be giving her something because he just took advantage. That's why I said his kind heart, but he's become selfish, whether he's recognised it or not. But I've made the point to his dad, and I even said it to him as well. Like, you're burning bridges. People are not going to help you when you want help because you're not treating them very nice. You're taking them for granted. So effectively, he always prioritised paying his mum back. So whatever she wants, she's fleeced him a lot. Actually, she does. Even when he stayed with me, he was having to pay her money, even though she wasn't providing him anything. And he didn't owe her anything. It's just something where she had an expectation because she was used to certain payments. And I said, you don't need to pay that. He goes, yeah, I do. She says I have to. Like, she needs that. I have to pay it and all this. And I said, no, you really don't. She's lying. It was to do with council tax because he wasn't living there. He was with me. So why is he got to contribute towards these things? It was bizarre, But he always pays her. He won't miss her payments, but he'll mess other people up. So when he got this job, he didn't pay my mum anything. He bought himself a fancy TV, an expensive TV, and he made sure his mum gets her money. And now where he's on a really low income, he's barely got anything. He's not giving my brother rent where he is. He's not contributing. He's going to make sure his mum gets money, though. And my mum still hasn't had anything. And again, that just shows poor judgment, doesn't it? Because you got to think, who's really there when you really need it in a crisis? Don't burn those bridges. So my mum's already given him an opportunity, and he's took her for granted. It's disrespectful. So what's going to happen next time he wants help? It's not going to be that. He's going to learn the hard way. You know, this isn't me trying to dig. It's raise awareness and show. If they ever see the video, then I think they need to see it for themselves anyway. But I'm not going to go out my way to show them the video. If they ever see it, it's up to them to take accountability, you know. Because I made a point. Because again, you try and educate people on your own experiences. Like, we don't always make the best choices in life, but I own them. Like, I had a credit card a long time ago when I was back in about 18. I was really young. I got a credit card. It wasn't a big allowance, but I had other bills and things, and I messed it up. And in hindsight, looking at it, it's like, it's so stupid. If you just paid the bare minimum in the first place, you could still use the card anyway. So if there's any money left on it, effectively, you could pay your credit card, and then if you've got any bills, you could use the credit card again anyway to pay the bill. So there's no real need to avoid paying it. It's really stupid. But I missed the payments, escalated with late payment fees. I started getting fed up because I was like, that's not fair. That's escalating. So I just stopped paying it. And it wasn't even a big sum. I didn't realize how hard it is to get a credit card, especially once you've messed up. It took me decades to get back to getting the credit card. So I did warn him, you know, because you got a credit card, you got like a catalog thing where you can buy things and pay it weekly and monthly and things. I said, if I was just, whatever you do, don't mess them up. Don't do anything you can't afford, and make sure you make those payments, because if you don't, you're going to regret it, because you're going to lose access to those services and it's going to be impossible to get it again. And he was buying like stupid things. He was getting like takeaways on the credit card. He was buying really, really reckless things. And then again, he had an issue where he lost his job and things. This was back before, this was like a couple of years ago now. You know, and then it's like, wait, so I asked him later on, like, what happened now? He goes, oh, I lost that. I haven't got that. For God's sake, like, like, I've made the same mistakes, but no one advised me properly. You know, I'm trying to impart. This is what I'm talking about, though. You can only give people advice to a point. It's up to them to implement. I'm not going to spend my whole life bashing my head against a wall, saying the same things in conversation with people when they're not heeding that advice and listening. You know, if they want to go down a path where their life's a mess, and you have to take accountability of that. Because I've always known this, that there's going to be people who are jealous of my life in the future, because I'm building something quite remarkable, and I'm aware of that, because that's literally what I'm building towards. It's not by chance. So if anyone sees what I'm doing, don't think I'm just bumbling my way through, and it might seem that way. Believe me, I've said from the beginning. I said to my daughter back in 2020, I kid you not, and she'll be able to attest to this when she's older. She's known this. I've said her little things along the way that have come true. And I said to her, one day, me and you, like, we're not going to worry about money at all. And I meant it. Like, I'm not saying it as a joke here. Like, if you look at my face, I said it. I knew it. I said, one day I'm going to be in the spotlight. I'm going to be famous. I said, I don't seek the fame. It's just a consequence of what I'm doing. But I knew what I was doing was big. Like my books and everything I started doing, I was just looking, thinking, there's no way this can't be popular. There's no way. Because I know how healing it is. I'm getting huge goosebumps now. I know how powerful it is what I do. So I said, I am going to be in the spotlight one day. And it's not something, I was doing it to make her aware, really, so she can be ready for it. Because, you know, spotlight isn't always great. But I said, we're struggling now. Sometimes money's hard and it's not nice. I said, but it's how we're learning. We're building character in this, you know. If we can be happy with little, just think how happy we can be when we have a lot. And she'll say this. She knows. And I haven't faded away from that at all. If anyone sees me, I'll have days when I'm frustrated as shit. But I never, ever lose the vision. I don't ever feel I'm not deserving of it. And it's not going to happen. It just hasn't happened quite yet. But I'll keep plugging away. And I don't do it for all those things. It's just a consequence of what I'm building towards, you know? So what I'm doing at any given moment can be perceived by others reckless because they don't share the same vision. So when I wrote my first book, people probably didn't think much of it or something. They didn't realize that was the beginning of the legacy. So for instance, I'm leaving jobs to finish writing a book. People think absolutely reckless. Like, why would you do that? Your other books haven't even sold yet. I've had people who want to write a book and they're thinking it's not worth it. I hear so many authors, they struggle after that. There's no money to be made in it. I'm like, well, if you're doing it for the money, you're doing it for the wrong reason. Just think how proud you'd be to have done a book, and then you can always say you was an author. Think of the pride, what you've accomplished. That's quite remarkable. You don't need money to signify the achievement, surely. But a lot of people just attach everything to money. So it's like, okay. So I've continued those habits, and I've continued to build and build and build. And now it's no longer one book. It's a substantial amount of books. I'm on my 7th coming out this year. And I think that's incredible, And if I had just given up at the beginning of the first one when people didn't understand, there'd be no legacy. I've built a legacy on the back of everything. I don't care what people think. They don't share the vision. Most people give up. If you showed someone the future and they were confident that's happening, all of a sudden their mindset would shift. But how hard would they keep working if they didn't know it was guaranteed? Most people think it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's only worth it when they see the results. So when I'm successful, for instance, that's when people go, oh, God, I should have done that. I mean, now all of a sudden they believe it, or maybe they think, oh, I should have invested in myself. Maybe it's like, you should do it anyway. You should do it anyway. So, at the end of the day, it's people accountable for themselves. Like, I'm self-made. I'm self-made in my chaos. I'm self-made in my success. It's all me. I take accountability of that, and I learn from my past. I'm always evolving and learning. And if I see something, I will try to help someone. And it's not about them just agreeing with what I'm saying, but reflect upon it. Think about what it is you want for your life. Does it make sense what I'm saying? There's no point going, oh, I don't think so. It's like, that's for you to do. I don't share the burden of your life. Like, if you struggle, if you don't, it's not going to make me sleep any less. It's not going to change my life. I'm busy doing my own thing. If people want to if people want to feel like it's easy for me and I've got handed something, that's up to them. I've not been handed anything. And I give the same advice I give to people is the same advice I follow for myself. It's just I'm accountable. So if I give people the tools and I say, this is how I do this is what I would do, that's me giving the advice based on what I think is the best course of action. And it will give you the best reward, and it'll help you in life. It depends the life you want. Like my nephew, I showed so many times to people that were taking him for granted. They didn't respect him. There were times he was going for nights out and things, and he was always like the third wheel, the odd one, But they just wanted to have him hanging around. Sometimes that they take his friends would take. He doesn't drive, so his friends would take him somewhere, but then they'll all drive off and leave him there, and he's got to find his own way back and things like this, Or maybe he's the one that doesn't have money at that moment, and rather than they let him suffer, all these little things. And it's like, you're not being respected, though. What's the point of being around people who don't respect you? And if you look at what they're doing with their lives, they're not really doing anything. It's just a waste. But if you put the time and energy into building yourself up and being confident on your own, and then having more goals, all of a sudden you start attracting better. You'll have better quality of people around you. You'll have a better quality of life. You learn to attract. Because I said, you're never going to attract your soulmate when you're not your best version of yourself. You might have on and off fleeting romances, things that are chaos, loads of lies spread about you, all these circumstances, one night stands, whatever you want to have it. It's just constant chaos. Or if you invest in yourself, really, really just follow your passions, follow your dreams. Don't abuse your body. Don't abuse your mind. Don't abuse yourself. Anything is possible. So literally all those things you could have. Your finances could be thriving. You could be traveling. You can have all these experiences. You can have people that actually respect you. You can have a beautiful relationship. Someone maybe you get married to. All of a sudden you've built this beautiful, sustainable life. Or keep doing what you're doing. Wallow in pity parties. Allow people to disrespect you. Keep going back and forward. Nothing to show for it. It's just constant negativity, really. You destroy your body. You destroy who you are. There's no growth. There might be moments where you think, oh, I'm winning. This is exciting. Short-lived. Short-term gains. But again, it's up to you. You literally, the life you're living is a consequence of the actions you've taken to get there. And it takes hard work and consistency to build something different. So that's what I say about me. I'm consistent. I've been alone for long periods, but that's because the healing journey is lonely. To define who we are and figure out who we are at our core, it takes a level of isolation to do that. You have to be introspective. Think about what it is I want for my life. Like, what is my passions? What is my my gifts? Like, what is my talents? And what's going to make me feel fulfilled? And it's like starting like building towards that and focusing on it. And then it's that accountability as well. Like if there's bills to sort out, let's sort the bills out. If there's responsibilities in our daily life that have to be balanced, you can bury your head in the sand. But again, it's inevitability. It's going to chase you. So deal with it. And then you realize the stresses aren't that bad. Like even financial stress isn't that bad. I have someone I worked with in the past, not that long ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And he was terrified, the idea of struggling financially. He was terrified. He would keep himself in toxic work conditions, for instance, just because to them, that toxic work condition is better than not knowing how you're going to pay your bills. And I was like, that's mad. And I said to him, I think the reason it's difficult for you and it isn't so much for me, I'm not saying it isn't difficult. There's a challenge within that. It's not fun. Let's not sugarcoat it. It's not fun. I said, the difference is, I think you haven't struggled like that because you've not allowed yourself to struggle. So you don't realize that you can actually get through it. You don't realize how much you can cope through adversity because you've not tested yourself through that adversity. I said, but I've experienced it multiple times and here I am. It doesn't destroy me. I can cope. So I know when I'm going through those struggles, it's not the end of me. It's just a transition. So some people are just terrified of change. They're terrified of being uncomfortable. Whereas I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think that's part of life's lessons though, isn't it? So I can challenge myself to do things, I guess, against the norms. But again, what I say, my life is all about, there's a method to madness. There's a method to all of the madness. And like I said, there's people that'll be jealous. There's people that are jealous. And they're all the people that have had things where I haven't, though. And it's when people have had things and you haven't, how much have they supported? I've been watching people. I don't expect support from people. I don't expect anything of anyone. But they certainly haven't disappointed me in that way, have they? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I haven't had support. The only one that supported me on my journey so far, like, really is my mum. And that's it. So I don't feel like, for instance, I don't feel like I owe anyone anything. I've given my time freely to people when I can. I'm starting to be like less now. I'll help people passively. If people want to buy my books, they want to read you want to see my YouTube videos, you want to see things that it's going to help. That's how I'm helping people. The odd person I might help one-on-one if I feel called to do it and I want to help them, but I've got a lot of things to do in my own life. I haven't got time for all that. It's like I'm not prepared to slow myself down for someone else's journey. That's not happening anymore. It's not happening anymore. So I'm continually uplifting myself. And it's not for me to sort of people to live vicariously through me. But when people have done well for themselves or things, they don't really, you don't see them looking over to you. I say it all the time that any of my family members, they could have bought one of my books. I'm not asking to buy all my books. They could have bought a book and said, that's my brother, that's my uncle, And we're really proud of him. Like, he's done this is going to help people. And you could just talk briefly about it if you wanted to. No one wanted to. I didn't ask them to, but you just think a normal, kind person would do that. So then, on the back of that, when I'm successful, why should I share my successes when they've never shared theirs? So, there's that I've become a bit more stoic like that. The boundaries have been set. And the same is, I can't be bothered to keep bashing my head against the wall, trying to educate people who clearly don't want to be educated. And like I said, that lack of accountability is like the thing I've noticed is a lot of people, they want you to make decisions for them. They're reckless and they just think, you know what, they'll have the answer. It's like, you already know the answer though. You just don't want to do it. You shouldn't need me to tell you everything. You must know in your own heart, like whether that's a bad decision, whether that's a good decision, whether you should do this or whether you should do that. You don't need me to paint every single picture, And that's what I'm up to. It's like, I've given you plenty of advice. There's no reason for you not to know what to do next. And even if you genuinely don't know what to do next, you're going to have to learn the hard way just like everybody else. You'll make mistakes, and then you either learn from the mistakes or you repeat that mistake. Either way, the responsibility falls on them. It's no one else's. So someone might think, oh, it's your fault. You didn't step up. You didn't tell me. Like, if you'd said that, I would have done that. It's like, it's not my job to tell you. That's not my responsibility. I'm responsible for my life. I'm not responsible for anyone else's. By extension, my daughter's to an extent, but even she has to learn her lessons. She has to make decisions in her everyday life. She's accountable. We're all accountable. So this lack of accountability I find quite alarming, really, in people. and the fact that some people just lean so heavily on others because it's not anyone else's job to live someone else's life. So I don't feel guilt in any way of that. Okay, I have the answer to this and I have the answer to that, but the people should have the answers themselves. And if you don't, it's like you're going to have to learn. Like I said, you're going to have to just learn the hard way. And it's like, but most people don't want to. They just, it's like rose tinted glasses, you know? It's like deep down they know. It's like if you stay in a toxic relationship, for instance, deep down you know this isn't going to be good for you for the rest of your life. You know deep down you're not happy. But you keep yourself there comfortable and you're just maybe just waiting for someone to give you a piece of advice, a piece of wisdom to help you find clarity. And it's like, but you already know the answer. Someone telling you is just validation to something you already knew a long time ago. So why waste time? You know, so the thing about my content is it'll help people in periods, but then I expect periods where they're going to go off and heal on their own journey. You don't need to hear from me every day. There's something beautiful about that. You know, you're part of someone's transition towards a healthy life, healthy, balanced perspective. And then they should be able to seek that from within themselves and learn from their own lessons. So I don't expect people to have to like watch me continuously for the rest of their lives. It's just the eye opener, you know. And then hopefully they go on and have a beautiful life. But again, they're responsible for it. Oh, you can't just keep. Imagine that if your phone was, if people were available to call you all the time if they have an issue, they just wouldn't stop. Because it's easy to ask someone else to solve your problem than solve it yourself. But you know, it's actually wiser to solve it yourself. So like, I don't seek anyone's advice for my life. I just get on with it. You know, I know what I need to do at a given moment. I know my vision for my future. I'm highly accountable. I don't do reckless things with my life, for instance. I don't put myself in toxic situations. I don't create relationships that I don't want to invest in. I get lonely just like everybody else for periods, but nothing substantial. So I'm not reliant on other people. So I don't get weighed down by other people's life and expectations and things like that. For the right person, for sure. We blend, but I'm not in a rush. I'm not a desperate need for things, you know. And I think that desperate need for attention and validation is part of people's downfall, in all honesty. Makes them vulnerable, susceptible to abuse and all sorts. But again, this is deviating now. I don't want to digress and go mental. It was all about just accountability, really. Like I said, any advice I give to other people is literally how I live my own life. So I wouldn't tell someone to do something that I wouldn't do. So it's up to people, though, isn't it? Like, what life do you want, and then start building towards it. And you can't expect things to happen overnight. But like I said, when I started building my legacy with the books, for instance, my ex-partner, she was always ridiculing me because I didn't have money and I was struggling all the time. Like, even in a crisis, like I'm going through a personal crisis, and it's like it's not that easy. And then there's the financial restraints too, and she thinks because she's got a little bit, she's not doing that great, but because she had money and I didn't have any, she's sort of thinking she's winning in life. And I thought it's not even a competition at my end, and you don't know the vision I have. And now I'm sure they're because they're quite stagnant, you know, not really special. It's not me criticizing; it's just an observation, you know. And then you see what I've been doing, and it's like I think anyone in their right mind, not someone that's jealous, because someone that's jealous would be clouded judgment. I think anyone in their right mind, I think would see that it's quite evident that I am building towards something. Whether anyone thinks I'm going to get as far as I think I'll go, is okay. But I think it's quite apparent, though, that I have invested in a positive way towards my legacy in my life. Like, I think so. You know, and like I said, I've still got this situation in a week's time. And again, that's for me to see the facility, that's for me to be tested on the forklift. And then it's for me to also, from their point of view, obviously they're judging me, but at the same time, I'm judging them. So it's got to work both ways too. So I don't just chase money, I never have. But I could really do with a breakthrough now. And I think that could be a decent situation for the time being. But we'll see. You never know. But like I said, things can turn around. But then on the back of that, I've still got all of this, you know. So even if I stop writing books altogether now, there's always 6 and the 7th due to come out. There's no reason it won't. And there's more others than that. But even if I just stopped and I just went back to traditional work, there's always this work behind me, you know. And I don't think that's a failure in life. At least I don't think most people would. But again, it's up to people, isn't it? Because I always said that at jobs. Again, I'm only saying this now just to give people more ammunition for their own lives. There was a job I did about 4 years ago, I think. About 4 years ago. And I was saying I need to focus on my book because I can't stand being at this job. It's driving me nuts. I just want to finish my book. And they thought I was nuts. And every time I leave a job to do my books, they do think I'm nuts. And I'm like, I really couldn't care less. I said, the reality is though, and I said, because I'm trying to give them advice, like, because they have other dreams as well, and they're not pursuing anything. It's everyone's stagnant in life. I never understand it. I said, the reality is, like, if you put it this perspective, you think it's really, really frightening and like unhinged to leave and invest a period of time to do something, and you have that for the rest of your life. I said, so I could leave and in 4 months find another job, and you didn't leave. And, so like, for instance, in 5 years' time, there was a 4-month period where I took time out to write a book, and I've got that forever. You didn't take that 4-month period off. You've just worked continuously for 5 years. What's really the difference between you working for 5 years and me working for 4 years and 8 months? Like, it doesn't make much difference when you think about it. Like, anyone says that, no one's going to care. That extra 4 months you worked, that doesn't make a damn bit of difference to your story. But all you've got is this job you're miserable at. Now I've got a book. Then maybe I'll do that a couple of times. Maybe you've worked flat out for 5 years and I've worked 4 years, but there's been slight periods that were on or off. And I've got 3 books. So now I've got 3 books and I worked for 4 years. You've got nothing and you've worked for 5 years. Like traditional work, of course. That's how my mind thinks. It's like, I'd rather create building my legacy. I can always jump in and out of jobs. Everybody has that capability. It's not that complicated, And then I said, eventually, maybe we work in the same place. And I bump into you and it's like, oh, I've been here for 8 years. It's like, oh, well, that's cool. I've done my books. I've had a few different jobs, I'm here and there. Yeah, and I'm here as well. We're both doing the same job. How fun is that? Some people might think it's a failure if you end up like that. But then sometimes you do things for stability. But by then, maybe you've got like 8 books. So how you been going on? Yeah, well, I've always meaning to leave, but I can't always today. It's like, well, for me, that's a failure of life. Like, you didn't have the courage to try something different. If you've been in and out of jobs, like, I think people see that. People want like the loyalty and they like the fact they've stayed there. For me, I think it's a lack of like faith in yourself and a bit more like fear of the unknown. I think I think going to different places and like learning in those places and experiences, I think that gains you an awful lot of knowledge and wisdom. So like, someone, maybe they know perfectly how to do that one role at that one job, but you've got more versatility because you've been in different places. So you're not scared to enter new situations because you've been so many, you know how different places operate. So from their point of view, they've stayed there. They're great at that, but they're not great at everything. Whereas you've had those in and out situations, maybe had a period here, period there. But you've got so much vast amount of experience and knowledge now that you can literally, you're not scared of walking into any situation because you've been there, you've done that. Again, it's up to people how they perceive life. Some people just want stability their whole life, but then they forego their happiness and make themselves miserable. And that's the accountability. There's a consequence to either way, There's one side that's unstable. You're not guaranteed your finances. Maybe that makes you less desirable to the opposite sex. I get that. Someone that wants someone who's just going to give them stability and money. They want a luxurious life at this present time. I'm not giving that to someone at this present time. Doesn't mean the next 6 months I'm not capable of it. It doesn't mean in 12 months I won't be, and the rest of my life. But for a set period of my life, that was never on the cards. And it's not for me to do that for someone. If people want stability, you do it for yourself. There's an accountability for each of us. People shouldn't keep leaning on others to do it for them. And that goes in relationships too. There's a lot of people who feel that your only value to them is what you can give them physically, substantially, They feel like you should be providing to them. That is their like reward. It's like, no. That's, your mind is warped. Like, if you want wealth, you acquire wealth. If it happens in the, like, let's say you're already in a relationship and then you become successful, then you're becoming successful together. That's great. But if someone can't appreciate you at your lowest, then they don't deserve to be with you at your best. That's how I feel. So I have no fear of being alone. I've got no fear at all of being alone. I'm self-made, self-sufficient. I own my failures, my setbacks. But I also bloody well own my success. So yeah, I make decisions that most people think are unhinged, but I actually see the method to the madness. It makes sense to me. So I don't need it to make sense to someone else. But when everybody else plays it safe and then they get jealous after, it's like, well, you never had the guts. The only way you would ever have the guts is if you knew it was guaranteed at the end, and then that's not even taking a leap of faith. That's a guarantee. That's not the same thing at all. Anyway, I don't want to digress. I don't want this to be long. It wasn't supposed to be this long anyway. Again, I was just trying to give people like a pep talk of life. And I said I didn't want to go the personal route, but it's so much to learn from situations, you know. And that was just one example of so many that I encounter in life in general, you know. But yeah, like I say, I live my life how I want to live my life, and I have no doubt of my future. So this is who I am. I own it. I own everything. I don't sit at home wallowing in self pity like anyone owes me anything, because I recognise some things only happen at the right time. A sequence of events sometimes needs to occur for a breakthrough. Sometimes something's not ready at that period, so you can't have your breakthrough yet. So the best thing you can do is just keep working away. Don't put too much pressure on yourself all the time. It's important to take rest as well. There's no point just working and working and working, because you just gain resentment if you just burn out. So it's important that we're fair with ourselves too. But again, don't make excuses in distractions, because you can have distractions for a period because it's fun, it's entertaining, but it is a waste of life if we just allow that to be our life, you know. So if you have something, a skill, a talent, something you should be investing in, I think it's a bit of a waste not to, because that's your gift to the world. But anyway, the life we live is a consequence of our actions.